everybody, welcome back. Today this is going to be like a two-part lesson. So the first part, I'm going to be going over some picking techniques. This will be useful for anybody who hasn't played slack key or hasn't played guitar or anything like that in general. If you played guitar and you know how to pick pretty well, then you can skip ahead to the second part of the lesson. And in the second part, I'm going to be going over the slack key scale, which is a little bit different. But today we're actually going to get our hands on the guitar and we're going to start playing something. So for those of you who have never picked on a guitar before, you're going to want to position your hand, your picking hand, right above the sound hole. And first you got to determine how many fingers you want to pick with. For me personally, I go with 2 fingers. Some people go with 3, some people go with 4, and some people use all 5 fingers. I would recommend 2 or 3 because I think it's a lot easier to manage. And especially if you're a beginner, you won't have so much to worry about. So let's say you're like me and you want to use 2 fingers. First of all, you're going to need to choose the other fingers. Like I'm using my pointer finger and my thumb as my 2 fingers. So those are already locked in. My other 3 fingers here, I'm not using those. So those are going to become what we call anchor fingers. You're going to want to position those right around the edge of the sound hole. Just like that. Now the reason we do that is because when you're picking with these fingers, you don't want to have to be constantly looking at your fingers. So these will allow you to remember that you're always going to be staying in the same place. Your hand is not going to be moving, so you won't have to go looking for the strings. It'll be a lot easier. So for example, if I'm not looking at my hand here and I'm picking, it's really easy because my hand's not moving. It's staying right here locked in with the guitar. These 3 anchor fingers are keeping me right there in place. If I didn't have the anchor fingers and I just tried to pick like this and I was looking away, my hand would be all over the place. So it makes it really easy. So now that your hand is positioned directly over the sound hole, the next step is to assign fingers to strings. Let's say you're like me and you're using 2 fingers again. Your bottom 3 strings are going to be assigned to your pointer finger. So your pointer finger is going to take care of strings 1, 2, and 3. And your top 3 strings are going to go with your thumb. So you're going to have your thumb on strings 4, 5, and 6. So you're kind of splitting it in half right there. If you're using 3 fingers, for example, it might be something like your thumb will take care of 4, 5, and 6. Your pointer finger will take care of 2 and 3, and your ring finger, not your ring finger, your middle finger, will take care of the first string. But for me, I like to use 2 fingers, so I split it in half. My pointer does 1, 2, 3, and my thumb does 6, 5, 4. So this is where things start getting a little bit more fun and start sounding a little bit more like slack key. So now that you've figured out how many fingers you want to use, you have your anchor fingers down, and you've got your fingers assigned to different strings, I'm going to teach you your first picking pattern. Now, you're not going to be using this pattern all the time when you play guitar, but this is just a good exercise for you to get more familiar with how to play fingerstyle guitar, so you can play slack key. So you're going to be using, let's say, your 2 fingers here, or however many fingers you want. And this picking pattern is going to be called 5, 1, 4, 3. One more time, that's 5, 1, 4, 3. So basically that means you're going to be picking those strings in that order. So you're going to start with 5 with your thumb, 1 with your pointer finger, 4 with your thumb, and 3 with your pointer finger. So it's going to be like this, a little bit faster. And now don't worry, I'm remembering there's 6 strings on the guitar and we're only using 4, but it's just a simple exercise, so we're only going to be using 4 strings to make it a little bit more easy. And so just get a little bit familiar with that. The 5, 1, 4, 3, 5, 1, 4, 3. So one of the reasons that we're using this pattern is to demonstrate the way slack key works actually. Typically the bottom strings, the thinner ones, are going to be used for your melody line. And your top strings, especially the top three, are going to be used for your bass strings. So that's why these are deeper. And your bottom ones are going to be used for melody, for example. And your top strings are going to be going at the same time. So together it might sound like this. So that's one of the reasons I have you doing 2 of the lower strings, the 1 and the 3, and 2 of the bass strings, which are above, 5 and 4. So now that you've practiced that picking pattern a little bit faster, so it sounds like. 5, 1, 4, 3. Now I'm going to show you how to play the slack key scale. This is what the scale sounds like. I'll demonstrate first. And back down. So now I'll tell you exactly where to put your fingers. Just like we use the picking pattern, 5, 1, 4, 3, we're only going to be using those strings again. This time we're going to focus mainly on strings 1 and 3, right down here. Those are the only strings you're going to be putting your fingers on. So you're going to take your chord hand, you're going to take your pointer finger, and that's going to be on the 3rd string. You're not going to use your middle finger, but your ring finger you're going to use for the bottom string. So let's make our first chord shape. You're going to put your pointer finger on the 3rd string, 4th fret, right there. And you're going to put your ring finger on the 1st string, 5th fret, right there. So it should look like that. 3rd string, 4th fret, 3rd string, 4th fret, and 1st string, 5th fret, right there. So that's what it should look like. The next one, you're going to slide your fingers over and you're going to be going up 1st string, 7th fret, and 3rd string, 5th fret, which should sound like this. You're going to slide it over again to the next one, 1st string, 9th fret, and 3rd string, 7th fret. Slide it over again. Now you're going to be at 1st string, 10th fret, 3rd string, 9th fret. Slide it over one more time. 1st string, 12th fret, and 3rd string, 11th fret. And one last time, you're going to slide it over. 1st string, 14th fret, and 3rd string, 12th fret. So once again, 4 and 5, 5 and 7, 7 and 9, 9 and 10, 11 and 12, 12 and 14. Now, some of you who are used to this kind of stuff might be thinking, oh, this is pretty easy so far. But if you're like me, you don't think that at all. When I first learned this, I was like, man, this is pretty difficult. How can I remember exactly where to put my fingers? Well, one good tip that I have is if you look at the guitar, the fretboard, there are fret markers right here, those little white dots. Now, you might not have that on your guitar, and some guitars have them positioned in different places, but they're always marking the same frets. So for example, I have one on the 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, 12th fret, and so on, but you don't need to worry about these all the way up here. The most important ones to remember are the 5th, 7th, 9th, and 12th. So if you look at the way I told you to put your fingers on the scale, they actually move with the frets. So you can follow the frets, the fret markers, you can follow the fret markers, and it'll make it easier to play the scale. For example, your first one, which was 4 and 5, you can use the 5th fret there to remember, yeah, my ring finger's on the 5th fret. Then when you slide it over, now you're on the 5th and 7th, both which are marked. When you slide it over again, you're on the 7th and the 9th. Slide it over again, you're still on the 9th and the 10th. Your finger's marked with the 9th. Slide it over again, now you're over to the next mark one, the 12th. Easy one to remember because it has 2. 12th always has 2 dots. And slide it over one more time, you're still got your 3rd string on the 12th fret, you're on the 12th and 14th. So that's an easy way to remember you're kind of moving with the fret markers. And you'll know if it doesn't sound right, don't worry, because for example, that sounds okay. But if you move one finger over to the wrong position, it doesn't sound right. There we go. Same with all the others. You've done something like this, which is 7 and 9. Sounds all right. You make a mistake and you move it over to 7 and 8. Doesn't sound quite right. So that's how you know. That's an easy way to tell. You can follow the frets. And just listen with your ear, and if it sounds right, it's probably right. If it sounds wrong, it's probably wrong. Now, this next step is where we start to combine things. So you have your picking pattern, the 5, 1, 4, 3. And I've showed you the slack key scale. And you know how to position your fingers exactly in the right places on the 3rd and 1st strings. This is where we combine the two. So you've got your picking pattern. And if you need to go slow with this part, that's all right. I would actually recommend that. You're gonna start pressing down on the scale. And you can just go one at a time for now. You know, start with just the first one. And you have your fingers going here. If this is your first time doing any of this, like picking for example and playing the scale, I wouldn't expect you to sound anything like that or sound that smooth. If you can, it's pretty impressive. But for now, if you're having trouble or you're still pretty shaky with it, I would suggest doing it one at a time. First practice, open without any hands on the chords. Just 5, 1, 4, 3. Practice that. Then when you feel good with that, put your fingers on the first one, the 4 and the 5. Practice that. So you got it going like this, going real good. Then try the next one, the 7, the 5 and the 7. Then do the same thing over here with the 7 and the 9. And the same thing with the 9 and the 10. The 11 and the 12. And the 12 and the 14. And then pretty soon you can start to move your fingers and do the picking pattern at the same time. So we're going. You can go back down the opposite way. Go a little bit faster. faster. If you make a mistake, it's okay. Once you got that going pretty smoothly, which this might take a while, don't worry, it took me a while, you can start mixing and matching, you know, jumping back and forth all over the place. You don't have to go down all the way and back all the way. You can get more familiar with it. Just so you'll have that to practice, and thanks for watching. See you next time.